Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Lamed Tes Amid Aleph. The sugya we've been discussing is the sugya of tchumim. We said that just as Shabbos you have a tchum, where you're kind of shvisa ben hashmashos, wherever you are, you get 2,000 amas in each direction. You extended, you put an area of tchumim in another direction, and you were at that area, you're kind of shvisa. Your belongings, your kalim, your food, will have the same status as yourself. And we went through interesting Mishnah yesterday about borrowing a woman, borrowing water, spices, salt, getting mixed into a isa. We said it's limited to the mutual area that they both can go to. We had three terutzim, either gezero, or because this tavlin's not bottle, or because the davar sheish na matirin. And now we're up to this Mishnah on Daf Lamed Tes Amid Aleph. Hagacheles kiragle habaylam. A coal would be limited to the shvisa of the Baal, the owner of the coal. The main chiddush is shalheves, the flame, a flame is b'chol makan. What do you mean a flame? Says Rashi, kigoin hidlik ner b'shalheves chaveroi. So his chava has tchum A, and you have tchum B, and you at yontif, you take a light, a shalheves, a flame from your friend. Are you limited to A, or does it get B? Eine ma'akiv. You're not ma'akiv to have A, b'isr tchumim, because it doesn't have b'chol makan. It's a davar she'ein bo mamish. It doesn't have tangibility, and thus le'inyan tchumim, you would not be limited to the chum of the owner of the particular flame. So if you take a flame from somebody, it would go ahead and acquire your tchum, not your friend's tchum. Gacheles shel hegdish, if you have a charcoal of hegdish, and l'chayri you're doing the same thing, you're going to use the charcoal or borrow it. Moilin ba, this is din of meila. You'd have to bring a korban meila, pay for the keren chomesh, the principle that you used. You would have to go ahead and pay for an additional fifth or a quarter, and you'd have to do a korban meila. However, shalheves, if you go ahead and have anah, loinen, and you should not midrabanan, do not have anah. However, if you do have anah, v'loy moilin, there's no din of meila. If you would borrow, again, a flame of hegdish, there's no din of meila. You take a coal of hegdish, you take the flame, you go and use it. There's no meila. However, you should not do it. Hamoitzi gacheles shusarabim. If someone takes a coal down to shusarabim on Shabbos or chayiv, the shalheves potter. However, shalheves would be potter. The question is, how do you get a flame out into Rishus Harabim without having some physical object going ahead and carrying the flame? So we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what's going on, okay? So going over the Mishnah, the three cases was first in general, then Hegdish, and then Linyan Shabbos. Tarabanan, says the Gemara. Chamish devarim nemru begacheles. There are five matters we said, halachic statements we said regarding a gacheles. Agacheles is kiragli abaylim, the owner of the charcoal. That would be limited to his tchum. Whatever his tchum is, that's what it requires. However, if a person picks up a flame from another individual, then it's not limited to the person he picked it up from, as we said in our Mishnah. But b'chol it goes to wherever place the person picked it up. Whoever who picked it up, it's his. Gacheles shel hegdish moilin ba. There's a din of meila de'oraisa. You'd have to pay keren v'chaimish and bring a korban asham ilos. The shalheves loy nenen. You should not have enough from a shalheves loy moilin. But if you do, there's no din of meila. This so far same as our Mishnah. Additionally, which we didn't say in our Mishnah, gacheles shel avodah zara. If you have a gacheles that had an isur avodah zara, asura, it's also to use. It's also bahana. The shalheves muteres, but shalheves is muta. The Gemara is going to ask, what's the chilik between a gacheles of hegdish, which you said is asur, like nenen, you shouldn't have enough from it, and gacheles of avodah zara, which since it has no mamashas to it, is muta. Hamoitzi gacheles, the fifth halacha. If someone finds the fourth halacha, if someone finds the gacheles, brings not finds, he takes out a gacheles to Rishus Harabim chayiv, the shalheves potter. That was our Mishnah. And the fifth din, hamudar hanome chaver, if someone says he makes a neder not to have enough from an individual, he would not be able to use his gacheles, Umutta b'shal hafto. He would be permitted to go ahead and use his shal heves. Again, because ein b'mamish. Why is the flame of an avodah zarah permitted? They're both asibahana, fellas. They're both asibahana in the gachela stage. Once it gets to the shalheves stage, you said the avodah zarah is muta, and the hegdish is still not permitted. What are you worried about? After the Gemara, avodah zarah demiisa, avodah zarah which has a natural disgust to it, ubedili in shimino, and people will stay away from it. Like also be Rabbana. See, the MS guy Shalheves there's no mamashas to it. Really, it's the chiddush over here is hegdish. Really, as we saw, there's no mamashas to it. You should be permitted, but there's no. The only reason it will be asa will be a gezerah. I'm not going to make a gezerah because naturally there is a natural aversion to going near the avodah zarah. Unnecessary to go ahead and make asa the Shalheves, the flame. Conversely, Hegdish delay moyes like bullet in the shminai gazer rabbanan. Hegdish is not moyes, and a person won't stay away from it. Where goes the shalheves that you shouldn't come to use the gacheles. Again, the whole reason the usher the shalheves is you may come to go ahead and use the gacheles, which is usher. So by avodah zarah, which is also bahana, and people find disgusting. I don't have to go ahead and say you can't use the shalheves because you won't come to go ahead and use the gacheles, the coal. Conversely, hegdish, which people do not have an aversion for, if I let you use the flame, you may come to use the coal. The chacham mergoiza loinen, and you shouldn't have enough from it. So it's a gezerah derabbanan. Hamoitz gacheles v'sharabim chayev v'shalheves pater. Someone who takes out a gacheles to a sharabim is chayev. He carried on Shabbos. However, he takes out a shalheves is pata. Iva Tanya hamoitzi shalheves kol shu chayiv. If you take out a shalheves, a flame, even a kol shu yechayiv. So how can you tell me shalheves yepata? Here you see yechayiv. So Amrav Sheishes kigoin shahitzio bekisei. You took a splinter, and the splinter has a fire on it, and you take it out. So since you're taking out something, meaning since the flame is not a davar shein by mamish, since the flame is adhering to a splinter, you will be chayiv. So you be chayiv. In other words, the splinter gives it a chashivas. The obvious question is, why aren't you chayiv? Forget about the flame. You should be chayiv on the splinter. You're taking out a piece of wood, right? So forget about the flame. You tell me you're chayiv for the flame. You should be chayiv for the splinter. And for the Gemara kasha, but typically mishum kisem. Let's say you be chayiv for taking out the splinter. After the Gemara, but the less shiurei, we know that in Hitzol, Shabbos, various objects, each one has its own various shear. When it comes to the splinter, the amount of wood you could take out, this is speaking with the less shear. You don't have the shear. Ditnan, hamoitzi eitzim kidei levashel beitzah kala. If someone, what's the shear of a eitzim? The amount it takes to cook an egg. We said a chicken egg that cooks very quickly, right? That amount of wood you be chayiv for itzah. Abaya says, Kigoin, the Shaife Mona. Now, Abaya doesn't like the teretz of Kisem. You know why? Because the splinter, like if you light a match, guys, think about it. What's going to happen? The flame is going to go out. He doesn't see you chayiv for that. He thinks that's not considered a mamashas because it's just going to burn out. So he wants something that will be lit and will stay there despite the fact it's being lit. As opposed to a kisem, a splinter, you think about a match, putting a splinter, what's going to happen? The match, is just going to burn out. So Abaye doesn't like that teretz. Abaye says the shayfa mana, you took some type of kli, moshcha, and you smeared it with oil, the isli beinura, and then you lit it. So that's your shalheves is being caused by the fuel, by the oil being burnt. Fred the Gemara, the obvious question: why you chayiv for only the shalheves? The typically mishum mana, you chayiv for the pot. And if the Gemara is not speaking about a pot, it's speaking about the chaspa. It's speaking about a broken piece of pottery. Fred the Gemara, the obvious question, but typically mishum chaspa. Let's say you chayiv for the broken piece of pottery that has oil smeared on it and it's burning. And for the Gemara, but the less shura, the pottery doesn't have a shear. Tanam, Mishnah Masechta Shabbos. What's the shear of a broken piece of pottery? Is kedei litein bein patzim lechaverei, put between a frame and its end. Basically, guys, what we're doing with here is these are levelers, right? Avrami, when things are uneven, you have these pieces of things you put in. So it seems you have a window frame over here that you have to level off, that it would use little broken pieces of pottery to go ahead and put in. So therefore, that's what it's speaking about. So you don't have the shear, it's less than the shear of the broken piece of pottery, but you do have oil burning. So what are you chayiv for? You're chayiv for the shalheves. So the question is, when you have a potter for shalheves, the shalheves always has to be burning something. You can't have fire just in the air, right? Guys, it has to be something. Something has to be lit in order to have a flame. So, Rabbi Yehuda, Elahodat nan, Amaitzi Shalevis potter. Someone takes out a shelvis as potter. How do you find it? Kigoin the adaye yaduye lushusarabim. Let's say you're right by your house, guys, and you have a flame, you have a torch or something, and you fan it, and the flame is going out into Rishus Harabim. So you only have the flame, you don't have any mamashes, you don't have a tangibility. That's when you potter. But if you have anything, even if it doesn't have the shear, and you take it out into Rishus Harabim and it's burning, it'll go ahead, it'll be chayiv. You'll be chayiv for that. You'll be chayiv for the shalheves. Next Mishnah. Bar shel yachid, the bar of an individual that has water in it. Kiragle yachid. If you fill up from that bar and your tchum is B and his tchum is A, you'll be limited to tchum A. In other words, it goes after the owner of the pit. We saw this, right? We saw that it goes after rakle abaylam. So the going, any object is kind of the shvisa of the owner. If a bar is owned by a yachid, so the water in the bar would be subject to the yachid. V'shal anshe oisayir, kiragle anshe oisayir. If you have a communal bar, then and it's owned by the city, you'll be subject to the city, whatever that is. 2,000. I'm gonna say it 2,000. Oile Bavel. We have Oile Bavel of Pasi Berois fame. Right? Pasi Berois, they had these pits they would dig for the people who would go up. And we had a problem. It's Rosh Yachid going to Rosh Hashanah, so we made this pasim around there. So what status did that have? It's Kiragle Hamamala. It goes to the regal of the person who filled it up. It's Hefker. The Chayr Pashtus, it's Hefker. It's not owned by anybody. So it's not, since there's no ownership, the only ownership it gets is when you coin it. When you pick it up and you coin it becomes yours. So it will be subject to your tchum. So if I have tchum A and Kenny has tchum B and Ari has tchum C, and we fill it up from the same pit of what, so if it's owned by somebody else, then we go after none of us. It goes after the owner. If it's owned, but it's not owned, but it's what it's if it's by the city. If it's by the city, then it goes after the city, whatever the city is, no matter what ours is. If, however, it's oile regel, then it would go after A, B, C. It will be the same. It's interesting. It will be the same location, but you'd have three different locales based upon my tchum, Ari's tchum, and Kenny's tchum. Guys, good? Okay. Rami le Rava le Rav Nachman. Tanan. Bar shel yachid, karagle yachid. The bar of a yachid goes after the owner. Uribino le asu stira. The harais hamoishkin, rivers that are flowing, umayonas hanoivim, and fountains that are bubbling. You have a well, and there's a source, and the water bubbles up from the well, even if it doesn't leave the banks of the particular pit, but it's always flowing. Harihin karagle kolodam. That goes after the regal of kolodam, of not the owner, but kolodam, of anybody. So l'chayr is shver. Amish said it goes after the owner. If I own a pit that is not it's a live pit, the water has a live source and it's flowing, it goes after any person. So who's talking? No one. So hachamaya what are we dealing with over here? My Mishnah is speaking where it's not flowing. Our Mishnah is speaking where it's stagnant water. It's water that's stagnant. Therefore, you go after the owner. Our Mishnah is speaking. It's a nice kasha, guys. Here, let's see a nice kasha in Rashi. Harihin kiragli kolada. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Let's see Rashi. So we said if the water is flowing, it's like the regal goes after the individual. Ein lehem shum shvisa. This water that's flowing does not have any designation. It's nothing. Loibim kaimon, not in its place. V'loy kiragli abaylim, nor like the regal of what of, right? V'loy kiregel hamamale, ela kolodam, anybody. Moichlichem beraglov. So guys, listen to this. It's not subject to the owner. It's not subject to the person who fills it up. It's like, it's anyone, it's regular, any person, any person could take this wherever he wants. So if I would take water out of this pit and give it to Yoni Zakatinsky, he could take it wherever he wants, even though I filled it up. I don't care. You hear this? Keregel kol adam, any individual. So guys, watch. Possibility. Penny owns the bar. It doesn't go after Penny. Doesn't go after Penny. Why? It's flowing. I fill it up. It doesn't go after me. Yoni borrows it from me. He takes it from me wherever he wants to go. It's no matter what. We got a kasha. Why is it different than an individual bar? And our Mishnah says it goes after a penny. He owns it. And for the Gemara, penny owns a water stagnant bar. This is what flowing. Since it's flowing, it doesn't have a shvisa. It's not at rest, literally. That's what Rashi. That's how Rashi explains the case. Continues Rashi. The Chomi did the less lu shvisa. So very interesting, yeah? Okay. Back in the Gemara. We said Oilei Bavel is Karagli Hamamali. Is the Oilei Bavel, that it's the one who picks it up. It's a universal bar. Whoever picks it up, it's subject to the shvisa. So if I pick it up, it's my shvisa. Kenny picks it up, it's his shvisa. Ari picks it up, it's his shvisa. Whoever it picks it up is subject to that shvisa. Karagli Hamamali. Itmar. Mila, you pick it up, you fill it up. In other words, you didn't pick it up for yourself. You picked it up for your friend. If I picked it up, it would be subject to mine. But I didn't pick it up for myself. I picked it up for my friend. Right? I picked it up for my friend. Rav Nachman Amar, Karagli mi shenismaluloi. Rav Nachman says it would go after the one you picked it up for. So if I pick it up for Hesh, then it goes after Hesh's Tchum. Rav Sheshes Amar, Karagli hamamale, it goes after my Tchum. So again, the case. You have a bar that is owned by no one, Pashtus. It's set there for the people of Oil Regel. I fill it up for Heshi. Again, if I filled it up for myself, guys, if I filled it up for myself and give it to Heshi, everyone says it's subject to my Shvisa, to my Tchum. It's not speaking like that. It's speaking when I filled it up to give it to Heshi. Said nonetheless, even though I filled it up to give to Heshi, says Rav Papa, it goes after my shvisa, my tchum. Says of Nachman, it goes after whose tchum? It goes after the tchum of Heshi. Now, there's a sugya arucha in the Sechta Bab Metzia called Hamagbil Metzia Lechavero, Kona Chavero Lo Kona. If I'm come along, I find a Metzia is Hefker, I pick it up. Is Heshi, I pick it up for Heshi. Is Heshi Kaino or not? So l'chayra, this is the same thing. If this pit has a din of Hefker, I'm picking up from the pit, the same thing as picking up a Mitzia. So l'chayra is to be subject to that halacha, whether Hamagbi Mitzia l'chavero is Kona Chavero or not. It should be subject to that. So says the Gemara, B'mai kamifli, Masava Rav Sheshes holds, Bira the Hefkerhu. It's a Bora Hefker. And Hamagbi Mitzia l'chaveroi is loy koina chaveroi. Someone who picks up for his friend's not koina. So even though I picked it up from Heshi, he's not koina, and therefore it goes after me. Umasavar biru de shutfahu, and Masava and Rav Nachman holds it's not subject to the din of hamagvil sira lechaveru kono chaveru. It's not a din of hefker. I'm not picking up from hefker. Everyone owns this pit. It's communally owned. So when I picked it up, I picked up my part. And I'm picking up my part. I can go ahead and do whatever I want with it. I picked it up for Heshi. I'm not picking it up for Hefker, so therefore Heshi gets it. That's the machloikis. How do we view this pit? Do we view this pit what as Hefker? And then it's subject to the law of Hamagbel and Mitzila Chaveroi, Loy Kain Chaveroi? Well, no. Do we view the pit as the pit of Shutvin? And therefore, when I picked it up, I picked up my Chelek, Al Menas to give it to Heshi. It's I'm not picking up from Hefker. Therefore, it's not Hamagbel Mitzia, which is then Hefker. Everything works. Okay, guys, that's get it clear because that's the rest of the daf. One more time. I'm picking it up, I'm filling up a pit from Oilei Bavel, Pashtus. I'm picking it up for Heshi. who's kaina? Who's shvisa? Does it go after mine or heshis? Says Rav Sheshis, it goes after heshis. Says no. Says Rav Nachman, it goes after heshis. Says Rav Sheshis, it goes after mine. What's the machlokes dependent upon? How do you view the pit? Rav Nachman views the pit as a pit of shutfin. If I'm shutfin, I have ownership here. If I pick it up, I can pick it up. It's mine. I can give it whoever I want. I picked it up for Heshi. Shvis of Heshi. Says Rav Sheshis, we view the pit as hefker. We view the pit as hefker. Since we view the pit as hefker, then what? Then I can't be kind of a Heshi because a magmul shila chaveru is like kind of chaveru. Okay. We're going to go ahead and show that this pit can't be shutfin. It has to be hefker. We're going to show it has to be hefker. And we're going to use the din of nedarim. Then a neder is when you aser something on somebody else, and you aser property. You know, aser. It's not an isser gavra. It's not an isser on the person. It's an isser on the object. All my objects are aser a person. That's a neder. So with that in mind, Esvei Rav Rav Nachman. Again, Rav Nachman said I could pick it up for Heshi because the bar is a bar of shutfin, a bar of partnerships. Hareini alecha chayrim. I am upon you chayrim. My property is upon you chayrim. So I say my property is on Shalom Kagan now. So I'm the neder. I'm the one making the neder, and Shalom is the mudder. Shalom is the subject of the neder. I want to ask my property on Shalom Kagan. Hamudar asa Shalom Kagan is asa to go ahead and take the property. He'd be asa because what did I say? It's like I said, Mamoinchi Alecha Hegdish. I said my property is on Shalom like Hegdish, Kechayrim like Hegdish. So I just asked Shalom on my property. Amid Beis. Hari'ata alai chayrim, right? If I say Shalom's property is upon me chayrim, then Asa, Shalom's property is also upon me. So Hari'ata al chayrim, hanoida Asa. The one who made the neder is Asa. I just asked Shalom's property on me. Now, what about it? Make a double header. Hareini alecha v'ata alai. So my property is Asa on Shalom, and Shalom is Asa upon me. Shnei masurim zeh b'zeh. So what did I just do? I accomplished two things. I made my property Asa on Shalom. I made Shalom's property Asa on me. Umutorim b'shel oilei bavel. Right? Our property is Asa on each other, and oilei bavel is permitted. The asurim b'shel oisei eir. Says Rashi. Umutorim b'dvarim shel oil bavel. She'asu b'nei agoyla. Anything that belongs to Bavel would be considered hefker, and therefore we would be permitted to go ahead and have enough from it. So let's say, guys, I'm coming up. Shalom can't have any enough from me, and I can't have any enough from him. We get to a water pit that has been established for Oilei Bavel. Can Shalom drink, or do I have ownership in that pit to stop him from drinking? And the answer is he can drink, because I don't have any ownership. It's hefker. Got it? So that's when it says over here, it says that mutarim b'shel oilei bavel is since it's hefker, it's common property, then we don't want. However, b'asurim b'shel oisei eir. Let's say we have a pit in the city. Everyone in the city has a piece of the action. So my piece of the action would answer on Shalom, and Shalom's piece of the action in that pit would answer upon me. Guys, good so far? Good. Now, the Elohein Devarim Shel Oilei Bavel, and these are the things that are considered Oilei Bavel. Harabayis, the Harabayis of the Beis Hamikdash, Halashakos, the Lishkos, the chambers, the Azaros, and the Azara. Or at least as Israel, as Kohen. That would be considered community property, so both Shalom and I would be able to go there. Ubar Shalem Saderech, and any bar that's all in the middle of the way. The Elohein Shel Oisei Eir, Harachoiv, the city, we won't be able to use the city street because we both have a piece of the action. Beis HaKnesses, we both can't go to shul. Shalom, we won't be able to go to shul because again, we both have a piece of action in the shul. We're based on merchatz. That's not good. We won't go to the bathhouse because we both have a piece of action in the bathhouse. Now, v'i amit bira d'shutfoihu, and if you're going to tell me, you Rav Nachman hold that oilei bavel, the bar has it in a shutfin, amai muta. Why would be muta to go ahead and drink from it? But tanan hashutfin shenadru hana zeh mizeh, shutfin that go ahead and ask their property on each other. Asurim likones lechotzer lerchaitz and bebar and bebar lerchaitz. So in other words, guys, look back at the Yom and Aleph. We just said the machlokes between Rav Nachman and Rav Papa regarding who has shvisa when he picks it up from the bar. Is it Heshi who I picked it up for, or is it me because I can't pick it up from Heshi? Was contingent upon how do you view this bar of Bavel? Do you view it as the pit of a Hefker? Do you view it as a pit of Shutfin? Rav Nachman viewed it as a pit of Shutfin. We're asking a question now. If Rav Nachman viewed it as a pit of Shutfin, if we were mudda hanaf from each other, we shouldn't be able to use it, and we see we could use it. Bishleim, if it's Hefker, we don't have ownership, and therefore each one of us can go ahead and use it. Masha Enkin, if you're going to hold it's a bar of Hefker, Masha Enkin, if you're going to hold it's a bar of Hefker, of Shutfin, then we both have ownership over here. So how can possibly be that Rav Nachman and Amoira says that a Oile Bavel, the pit of Bavel, we can go ahead and use if it's Shutfin, we should be able to use it, right? That's the problem. That's the problem. And for the Gemara, have a teretz, have a workaround. Hachanami, you're right. You're right. If I picked it up just for Hesh, you'd be right. For Hachamay Askinon, Lemale Smar Mididei, Komamala, Umar Mididei Komamala. Each one picked up his own. Meaning, we say Breira. We own the pit communally. Everyone owns the pit. So when you pick up water, it's Huvra Hadol Mafreya. Retroactively, it shows that was your water. Since it was your water and not mine, it's not also for you to use. Shalom picks up water as soon as he picks it up. It's not me giving him water and he's having enough from me. When he picks up the water, it's his water. When I picked up the water, it's my water. It's a din and breira. So therefore, it's possible to be a din of shutfin. That's why, right? And therefore, I hold if I pick it off a heshi, I can pick it off a heshi because it's not a mitzi. It's not someone who picks up a mitzia for his chaver. Hamagbi mitzia lechavei, right? Because it's not a mitzia, it's not hefker. How could I use it if it's shutfin? I with us are on each other. As soon as we pick it up, it's not I'm picking up his and taking from him. I'm picking up mine. We say breira. So if the problem is we're going to prove now Rav Nachman doesn't hold a breira. Okay, let's just recap what we did so far. Here's the case. We have a pit of Bavel. If I pick it up for Heshi, whose shvisa does it get? It says Rav Nachman gets Heshi shvisa. Said Rav Papa, it gets my shvisa. Said the Gemara, what's the svaras machlokes? Rav Papa holds it's of Hefker. Since it's of Hefker, I can't pick it up for Heshi. It would be a case of a magum mitzvah lechavei, right? Right? It's kaina. We can't do that. So therefore, it's mine. Says of Nachman, it's not Hefker. It's shutfin. It's shutfin. I pick it up. I'm picking up mine. I can do whatever I want with it. I gave it to Heshi. We're disproving now that a bar of shutfin. Why? Because we're seeing that two people who made us on a hana from each other can use the pit of Bavel. If it's shutfin, how can we use the pit of Bavel? We're having enough from each other. And for the Gemara, Itaka is not an efker. Itaka, you could use it. Why could you use it? Because we say yesh breira. Whatever I pick up is fuvra dova. That was mine all along. So it wasn't that I was taking shalom's, Shalom's were taking mine. We just took what was ours. Everything will be great. But I'm going to prove to you now that Rav Nachman does not hold a breira. Okay? Here's the case, guys. Here's the idea. They would go ahead, every person would give a shekel. Max is a shekel, you give a shekel. But into the shekel, you added something called a kalboin. We had this in the Sechel Shkolim. You added a little surcharge. Either because it rubbed away or because you want to pay for the money changer. Again, they had to change the coins. So there was a surcharge called a kalboin. If each individual gives, each person has to give a kalboin. If a father gives for two sons, he does not give, he gives 1 shekel for 2 sons, chatzi, and 1 kalboin. If, however, they're individuals, then each one's going to have to add a kalboin aside, right? So each one's going to have to give another kalboin. The halacha is from JC to everyone, like credit card processing fee. Okay, anyway. The halacha is shutfin a potter in Maisa Behema. Shutfin a potter in Maisa Behema. If you have shutfin, so now, shutfin would have to give 2 kalboins and to be potter for Maisa Behema. So If the brothers are shutfin in the property of the father, then they'd be potter from Ma'aseh Behema, and they'd have to give two kalbonis. If, however, in the father's property, they're not partners, they're considered part of the father's estate, just like the father can go ahead and give one kalboin, so too. So in that case, they'd be potter from a kalboin, but they'd be chayiv and Ma'aseh Behema because they're not shutfin. Good? Says the Gemara. With that in mind, the Savar of Nachman Yesh Breira. Does Rav Nachman in fact hold the din of Breira? But Tanan, the Mishnah in Masechta Shkalim, Ha'achim Ashutafim, brothers who are partners in the Tefusas Abayis. The father died, leaves them a property, and they divide up the estate. Kishechayavim bekalboin. When each one is chayav to give a kalboin, that means they're partners. The Torah and Ma'aseh Behema, because Ma'aseh Behema partners are potter. Ukishechayv Ma'aseh Behema. However, if they're chayiv minus them because they're not partners in the estate, they're considered like the father, then Peturim in a kalbon. They only have to give one kalbon instead of two. Rav Anan said on that, Lo Shanu, that the Tfusas Abayis is bottle and they're shutfin, Ela Shecholku, if they do the following, Gediyim Kneged Tloyim, Utloyim Kneged Gediyim. In other words, if they went ahead, the father had 100 sheep and 50 goats, they said, you take one goat, you take one sheep, you want to take one goat. They're dividing different species because that shows they're being mevatel the estate. If they say, you take one goat, I'll take another goat. If it's chloyim keneged chloyim, you take one sheep, I'll take another sheep. Right? That is, we'll say breira, and we'll say each one is getting what they're supposed to get, and the estate is still intact. They'd be potter from Ma'aseh Behema. They'd be potter from Ma'aseh Behema. No, they'd be a chayiv Ma'aseh Behema and potter bekalvin. Rav Nachman Amar, afilu cholkul gediyim keneged gediyim. Even if they divide up goat for goat, loim keneged loim, sheep for sheep, ein oimer zeh chelko magiyah mishari shoyno l'kach. We do not say breira. We do not say breira. Good. We don't say breira. So now, if we disprove that Rav Nachman was a breira, then we go back to the original problem. You, Rav Nachman, said the reason why when I pick up the Heshi, I can go ahead and give it the Heshi and it's be subject to Heshi Shvisa is because we view the bar of Bavel as shutfin. But 1 second, how can you view it as shutfin? We see Shalom and I, we both can have enough from it. If it's Hefker, we both can have enough from it. If we're shutfin and we have ownership, my ownership is Shalom and Shalom's ownership is not mine. And you can't answer Breira anymore because Rav Nachman does not hold the Breira. So therefore, Ella, you're right. Have charata from their original pshat. We're not discussing. No one's going to say a bar of shutfin anymore. Ella, the kuli alma bira de hefker. Everyone holds its hefker. Everyone holds its hefker. Sai Rav Nachman, Sai Rav Papa. Question: if it's hefker, how can heshi be koina? L'chayr, when I pick it up, I'm koina from hefker. It's mine. Ella hoch b'magbi mitzil lechaveirei kamifli. Whether I can pick up something for my friend or not. Masava koina, Rav Nachman says you koina, umasava loy koina. Okay, now, if you look at Rashi, Rashi is a very long-winded Rashi. Let's just start the beginning. Second wide line. B'magmi mitzia lechaveira kamifli. Loy garsina b'magmi mitzia koina chaveira kamifli. They're not arguing whether you can be koina. Everyone holds you can't. Even Rav Nachman says, I can't be koina for heshi. V'loy garis mar sava koina chaveira. Dim kain kasher Rav Nachman Rav Nachman. The boy little flushay hachad Rav Nachman sava koina chaveira. The amar karagle mishum ismalmulay. Ushnai moichsin amina Rav Nachman Rav Tisla Yamit Shabayu. Amag mitzil chaveira loy koina chaveira. Rav Nachman says in Bab Mitzil you're not koina. El hachi garsina. B'magbia mitzil lechaveira k'mifgli. The sulay. That's it. They argue whether you can pick up a mitzil for somebody else. Upirish. B'magbia mitzil lechaveira k'mifgli. Heshi's not kaina. When I pick this up, Heshi's not kaina. So how does it end up? Why is it subject of Nachman Heshi Shvi? So guys, I picked this up from Hefkam. This is the water from the bar. I'm picking it up. Everyone holds that I can't be kaina for Heshi. Question: then how in the world does this get Heshi Shvisa? Like Rav Nachman, how does it get Heshi Shvisa? If I picked it up, it should be subject to my Shvisa, right? So Ella what? Im koina hamagbia im loy koina pligi. Whether I'm koina or not. Rav Nachman sava loy koina hamagbia. When I pick this up, I'm not koina. Why? Who did I want to be kind of for? Hesh. Since I want to be kind of for Hesh, the war, it's not subject to Atu, my Shvisa. And when Hesh gets it, Hesh now is Kaina. Therefore, it's his. Whereas if Papa says, no, I picked it up, I am Kaina, and therefore it's subject to me. So very geschmack. So let's say one more time. Ella, in Kaina Magbia, in Loy Kaina Pligi. Rav Nachman Saba, Loy Kaina Hamagbia. I'm not Kaina. I'm not Kaina. The Lava that toilet mikni, because I didn't want to be Kaina. Ella Mishin is Mali Loy Kaina. When Hesh is Kaina, the Meshicha. Hesh is Kaina when he pulls the water. When it comes into his jurisdiction, and he wants to be kaina. Okay? So very geschmack. So here's the teretz, guys, back in the Gemara. So we have, Rav Nachman says Hesh is kaina when I pick it off him. You know why Hesh is kaina when I pick it off him? Because I didn't do anything. In other words, all along we thought it's me doing something for Heshi. It's the fact that I don't count. I'm a non-entity. Because since I picked it up for him, I'm not kaina. Since I'm not kaina, where's the kinyan? When Heshi pulls it. Therefore, it's subject to his shvisa. Masha Enkein says, Papa, no. When he picked it up, it's yours already. Even though you picked it up for Heshi, you're kaina, and that's it. Masav a kaina. Rav Papa holds your kaina, and therefore Heshi is subject to my jurisdiction. Umasava, and Rav Nachman says, loy kaina, not kaina, and therefore it's subject to Heshi's jurisdiction. Bez Hashem, tomorrow, I probably we're going to learn at night. I would think we're going to learn at night. The last night in shul, we'll get together. Doesn't seem to be an interest in the siyum. Guys, there has to be interest in the siyum. In other words, there has to be an effort. If you want to just sit around, if you want to see him, you have to say, listen, Rabbi Stern, we want to see him. Let's get it together. And we'll do what we can. But if there's no interest, trust me, I'm not going to do it. There has to be an interest. Again,